Okay, good day everybody. And today we are going to continue our series of consumer arithmetic. I think this is about the ninth video, eighth video. I don't know, I'm lost. But we would have looked at different concepts coming up. Most recently, I think we looked at loss percentage, calculating tax. So go back to those videos in case you were lost or you did not know. And as you come up the list, you will see how we progress throughout consumer arithmetic, looking at the various concepts. Today, it will be all about unit costs, working with unit costs under consumer arithmetic. So, what is our objective for today? Today, we're hoping to firstly, of course, define and have a working understanding or definition on the unit cost. What is the unit cost? We're going to also be discussing the importance of the unit cost, something that we take for granted. But if we really understand what the unit cost is all about and what it can do, we will have less problems in consumer arithmetic, I believe. And we're going to also look at how to calculate the unit cost and other costs applying the concept of the unit cost. Because once you know the unit cost, anything is possible, right? So let's go on to firstly the definition. So first thing first, you need to know that the unit cost is simply, in simple terms, refers to the cost or the price of one item. So if you know the price of one item, that is your unit cost. And as I usually tell students, if you need to know the price of any amount of items, all you need to know is the price for one. And with that, you can find any among these items. So I'm pretty sure oftentimes you find yourself whether in the supermarket or maybe you students, you go to the canteen, the tuck shop, the market, wherever. And you often ask yourself the question, how much for one? When you do that, all you're basically doing is finding out what is the unit cost. Because some of us naturally sensible enough to know that if I know how much one costs, I could find out how much for 10, how much for 2, how much for 5. And that is something that we do. I would say we do that instinctively. We do it without maybe even thinking that we're doing it. But somehow, when we bring that same idea in math, somehow hell break loose because then we don't understand why do we need the unit. But that's all we need the unit for. With the unit cost, we could find out any amount. And here you will see in maths, I usually see this question for CXA, and usually they put it in a table. And in a table, they have different things. But anyway, let's not jump the gun. When we reach there, we're going to address it. Why do we need to understand the unit cost? Here are 5 simple reasons why you should know or understand the unit cost. And these are all reasons that are applicable in maths. I would not go through all these concepts in maths or in video. Well, unless, of course, if you drop in the comment section that I should, I will. But this is basically all linked to unit price or unit cost. Calculating a bill or to calculate bills, your shopping bill, to understand invoices. Once you understand unit cost, unit price, invoices are a walk in the park because this is all that invoice do. Basically gives the unit cost, unit weight, unit whatever, and then they charge you accordingly. But all comes down to the unit cost. I've seen questions in the past where sometimes students have to complete different elements of an invoice. Of course, they do the prerequisites, so they might give you the item, they will give you certain prices, but then you have to calculate maybe the number of units. Maybe you have to calculate a unit price, and that tends to throw off a lot of students. But once you understand the whole concept of unit is just one, and with one you could calculate many, and sometimes from many, you could also calculate one. We're going to see that in time to come. Now, number 3 here, understand electricity bill and any other utility bill. I've seen students, sometimes when I teach this concept in school, I bring an electricity bill, and to hell, some students just cannot see how much electricity they're being charged and why. But this comes down to, again, the simple concept of understanding the unit. How much kilowatts are you being charged? How much units or how much does that cost? How much units is attached to, how much currency rather, sorry, not unit, but how much currency is attached to 1 unit of kilowatts or kilojoules or whatever they use to measure electricity? Your water bill, how much are you charged by the unit? Do we know that? Do we understand that? Our phone bill, electricity bill. Well, electricity bill is the same thing as the grand lake. All these bills are utilities, however you want to look at it, they all come down to the simple concept of a unit. If we understand how much is the unit, we could understand how much we get in charge. In fact, one of the things I tend to do on a monthly basis sometimes, and sometimes I just don't bother because I say, well, if they rob me, they rob me. But sometimes I literally go out of my way to take my electricity bill and compare the previous month to the current month and see if these numbers are realistic or if I'm being charged honestly. So these are things that we have to be able to do. And again, understanding unit costs could make us do that with ease. Fourthly, here we have to check and understand receipts. And I think this is something that we do every day. But again, sometimes we ignore the fact that a receipt is basically telling us how much we paid for an item. And most receipts are broken down in such a way that they tell you the amount of items that you took and the unit cost. Yes, they give us a unit cost. Pay attention. I tend to usually go at Calico supermarket to shop. And every time I look at the bill, you see, let me say I buy toilet paper, you will see a roll. If I have a roll, the whole package, times whatever little number they have there. So if they say times 2, that means that I buy about 2 rolls. And then they give you the unit cost. So then you would know how much you're paying for one. And if you know how much you're paying for one, you know how much for two. Some bills, not some bills, some receipts also do the maths for you. So they tell you the unit cost, they tell you the amount you buy, and let me say you buy 4, they will give you the total for 4. So they will multiply the unit times the 4 or the 3 or whatever item you buy. Yes, that's all in your receipt. Pay more attention in your receipt. Any shop you go and you ask for a receipt, that is basically the fundamentals of a receipt, not just how much you pay. Sometimes you just want the receipt to see how much you pay. But if you look at prior, well, again, and I'm talking about an authentic receipt. Sometimes when you ask for a receipt in some places, yes, they just give you how much you pay. I ain't say no. But ideally, in a receipt, you should have all those details. And last but not least, to calculate prices of bulk items. Yes, if you want to buy a whole pack of chicken, let me say, not even pack of chicken, you want to buy chicken by the bulk. And maybe bulk is not the best word to use here because sometimes bulk price is cheaper than unit price. And maybe that's a whole different discussion. But yes, when I say bulk items here, I'm simply referring to buying a whole set of one thing and not necessarily buying it at a deal or at a better rate or at a better price. Not necessary. So yes, these are all important reasons why we should understand the whole concept of the unit cost. CXC tends to grade this in more ways than one. I've seen it appear in word problems. I've seen it appear mostly in a tabular form. And I've seen this even appearing in the CCSLC, not CCSLC exam, the primary school, the CC, what's the name of that primary school exam again? Shucks, I forget. It left my mind. But yes, CPA, it just come back. Yes, I've even seen this in the CPA. Well, back in the days, right now it's all multiple choice, but even in multiple choice, it does appear. And here now, let's see if we could do some practice. This is typically how this question tend to come. However, here I'm taking a little shortcut because usually on the examination conditions, you might see this table extended further here. Yes, you might see something here and they could add 3 different rules. Sometimes, not all the time. It all depends on what they want you to know. So sometimes here they might write something like the subtotal, allow me to shorthand, subtotal. Then sometimes you have VAT here, value added tax. We did tax in the last video. Sometimes they give you a fee here, they give you a certain percentage. And sometimes it's either you have to calculate it from whatever you have to find here, or sometimes they give you straight up. They give you a value. And then they ask you for your total here. And this will be your grand total or total. So yes, sometimes they do it like that. But again, today I'm keeping our life a little simple because I just want to look at the whole idea of calculating unit price, amount bought, or whatever. So here we have a typical, let's see, what would I call this? This will be more like a bill. Let's call it a bill because it basically tells you how much the various item costs and what amount you have. It's not a receipt. Remember, a receipt will basically provide you. Oh, and yeah, as you said that, some people tend to mix up bills and receipts, right? A bill is basically a document that tells you how much items cost. That's a bill. So if you go to the shop and you ask them for a bill, you want let me say you're making an estimate and you need to know how much different things cost. You go to the shop and you ask them for a bill. And they now will organize the whole thing for you, the unit cost, the amount you want, and the total cost. And that will be your bill. However, if you go to buy those things now, no, you will not get a bill. No, you will get a receipt. And a receipt simply tells you now what you bought and how much you spent. That is the difference. So in a receipt, you know how much you spent. In a bill, maybe you potentially know how much you want to spend. But that don't mean that you will buy it. If I do an estimate and I find, okay, these things are very costly, I could decide, okay, I wouldn't buy the nails anymore. I don't need the nails. I could do without the nails. So my neighbor could lend me some nails and you could, eliminate. But that's what bill and receipt do. So again, that's just by the way. I didn't plan to bring on that, but as it came up, I guess it's appropriate. And of course, for example, sometimes you see this label. So you might see A here, you might see B here, and these are things you have to find, and then you might see C. And with the little thing I drew below there, you might see D or E according to what I want you to fill out. But as I said, I'm keeping our life simple because we're just looking at the concept, right? So the first one I did it right through. So here we have, I assume this was a market bill. Maybe you could see this as a post board, and they're telling you the unit cost. So that's mean, and again, if we don't understand what is the unit cost, some people will get caught up. The unit cost is telling us the price for one. And in this case here, we're dealing with pounds. So 1 pound of carrot is equal to how much? $1. That's how much for 1 pound of carrot. This is what this unit cost is telling us here. Good? Here is telling us how much this person wants to buy, or how much it will be for 5 pounds. And 5 pounds, let's think about it, is the same amount times a unit cost. And here I don't really want to get into giving you formulas, because this is not about formulas. This is about, I will put this under logics. Yes, we could put formulas attached to it, but I think it's better when you understand what is happening. I could tell you, okay, to calculate the total cost is the amount bought times the unit cost. Yeah, we could come up with that formula, maybe, and that might always be true, but it's better when we understand the whole logics behind it. Derive our own work, derive our own formula. So here we have the amount bought, and if you want to know the total cost, all we need to do is the amount we buying times the unit. So if we're buying 5 pounds, and it's $1 for a pound, then 5 pounds will be 5 times $1, and that will give us $5 as a total cost. And now let's do the rest, and the rest is a matter of algebra. So here we have the total cost being 450, and we know that this person, or they're posting 3 pounds. So we know 3 pounds cost 450. So then the question here comes, how much for the unit? How much for 1 pound? And in this case again, all we need to do here is divide our 450 by our $3. Sorry, by 3 pounds. And that will give us the unit cost. So the unit cost here would be $1.50. $1.50 per pound. $1.50 per pound. How did I get that $1.50? Division. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to do some long division. I've been using a lot of calculators coming up, but let's do some long division. For those that may not know, let's see, hopefully, if I could teach you here quickly. So I'm dividing 3 into 4.5, or $4.50, right? Simple. It's not hard. It's very simple. Let's just, there's a phrase to do long division. I can't remember. David Moscow, whom I can't even remember, but I guess it would come as a thing. So firstly, we divide. So how many times? So I think, yeah, so D is the first one. Let me see if it come back. So D is the first one. So we divide. So how many times can 3 go into 4? 1 time. So 3 could go into 4 1 time. Then we multiply. Yes, so the M. So we have DM. I think this is a short thing for long division. So we divide first, 3 go into 4 1 time. Then we multiply. 3 times 1 is 3. And that brings us to subtract. So then it's S. Then we subtract. When we subtract this, 4 minus 3, that gives us 1. Ignore the point. The point doesn't have to come down, but yes, you could put it on top here. The point does have to come down. And then you bring down. Yes, so that will be B. Ah, there you go. That's how it goes. So DMSB. And I think I used to say, as I see this now, I remember, I used to say, David must smell bad. That's what I used to say. I'm sorry or there if anybody named David, but it don't must be David. You could put anybody in. So if you want to say Deandra, Deandra must, well, hold on, then somebody else might be named Deandra. The dog, or nah, you can say, or dog. Dog must smell bad. But again, they might have dog lovers out there. But yes, this is something you could say to quickly remember the whole scenario, the whole procedure. So you divide, you multiply, you subtract, and then you bring down. And that's what I did here. I divided the 3 by the 4, then I multiplied, then I subtracted, and then I bring down. And then you just restart. So then I bring down the 15, and I restart. How many times can 3 go into 15? 5 times. Then I multiply, so divide it. Now I multiply 5 times 3, that is 15. And that will give me 0. And that's what I want, 0. And of course, you could just bring down the 0 here. but it doesn't change anything, and you bring it up 2 because it's just a place value from here on, right? And that's how I got my $1.50 here without using a calculator. And it's handy that you know this because, of course, when you're doing your multiple choice exam, you may not always be able to use a calculator. Right. Here now we have, moving on to the third row here, we have the unit cost, we give $3 per pound, and then we have a total cost of 12. So if I want to know how much I bought here, again we do some division, and this again is very simple, 12 divided by 3. So here I know that I would have bought 4 pounds, right? 4 pounds. And the beauty about this, you could always prove your answers. So in this case here, if I multiply the amount I buy by the unit, I'm supposed to get my total cost. And if I do that, you will get, if you multiply 3 per pound times 4 pounds, you will get $12. Yes? And last but not least, the most straightforward one, if you have a unit cost, so of the pumpkin is $5 per pound, and you bought 2 pounds, then that will simply be 2 times 5, and that will give me $10, right? So notice I didn't really use any particular formula, and I want it this way because again, it's not all about formulas. I think as I always preach, especially when it comes to maths, understanding goes further than learning a formula. If you understand this, there is no need to go and learn, although maybe that's how some of us learned it and maybe how some teachers approach it, but there's no need to really go and learn unit cost times amount bought is equal to total cost. Total cost divided by unit cost is equal to amount bought. Amount bought times unit cost is equal to, no. I mean, you could, if that's how you operate, you could, but I think it's a lot easier when you understand what happened. Of course, you could look at this video over and over until you get it, but I think that will bring us to the end of today. Oh, no, before I say that, of course, I said, remember, sometimes this is just a means to an end. So from here, if you have to calculate your subtotal, you just have to add all these prices here. So that's your 10 plus 12 plus 450 plus 5. That would have leave you with what? 10, 12, that's 22, 22 and 5 is 27, 27 and 450, that would be $31.50. So then your subtotal here would have been $31.50. You just find the sum of these here. If they had a tax value, you just subtract it. If, no, sorry, you add it. If they did not have tax added there, like if they just gave you the percentage, then we previously did how to find tax. So let me say tax was 15%, then you just have to find 15% of our 3150. And then to get your subtotal, you add your tax to the 31 whatever, 3150, and that will give you the grand total, right? So yes, it's as simple as that. So that will bring us to the end of today's video. Again, as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe so that you'll be able to get more videos like this. And until the next time, see you all again. Take care. Au revoir.